Welcome back to Open Heart Conversations, where we explore the world's enduring faith and religious traditions. I'm Reverend Dr. Jose Miguel Roman, your host, and with me today is Reverend Rob Wade, Chief Operating Officer of the United Palace of Spiritual Arts, and my co-host. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Today we have a very special program. We will be exploring one of the world's oldest enduring spiritual tradition, the Jain faith. And with us is a very special guest, Nitin Ajmera. Nitin, welcome to Open Heart Conversations.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. You come to us with remarkable credentials. You were the former president of the Jain Center of America, and I believe today you are the chair of the Parliament of the World's Religions. Is that correct?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, we'll start in the beginning, Nitin. What brought you to the Jain faith?
I was born in the Jain faith. My parents are Jains. My grandparents are Jains. And so that's how I was introduced to the philosophy of Jain religion. In Jain houses, the first words that are taught to a child is our Namokar mantra, which is the prayer for the five revered souls. And only then we learn other things. Obviously, that's where we come from. And for me, my earliest childhood memories are with my grandmother on a train ride from my pilgrimage back to my home in Delhi. And I remember her teaching me the names of the 24 Tirthankars. And I have reflected a lot if there is any other memory that takes me even further back, and it does not. So I do believe that learning the 24 Tirthankars' names was my first insight into Jain philosophy and Jain theories.
Isn't it true that Jainism is one of the world's oldest enduring spiritual traditions?
Absolutely. For Jains, there is a continuum of time. And since there is no creator and no destroyer, like the time always remains. And there are these time cycles that go up and down where the faith is established, destroyed, then established again, destroyed. So in that process, Jainism continues to remain and survive because it is the religion of the soul. And the religion of the soul will never die because it is the religion of what we are. And hence, Jainism is one of the oldest and a religion that was existing and will exist in future too, no matter what.
Wow. So was the Jain philosophy affected by the development of other faiths such as Hinduism or Buddhism? Or is it true that it's the other way around?
I think so, Robert. It's the other way around. Jainism is the philosophy that existed prior to these faiths. And if we all know, Buddha himself was a disciple of the Jain monks, and then he found his way to his enlightenment. And if you read various Vedas and Upanishads, they reference the 24 Tirthankars in various forms and pray to them. They agree on the existence of those things prior to some of the Hindu faiths and everything. So Jainism existed before. And for me, not only in these religions from India where Jainism has an impact, I personally believe that Jainism has an impact on all religions of the world because there is a common thread that goes through all our lives. And through those common threads, I always see Jainism manifesting itself in other traditions and thoughts and beliefs too.
So Jainism actually acts as a foundation for many of the world's spiritual traditions.
I think so. That is the true with every faith, that they believe that they are the center of the universe, of everything. So Jainism also believes that we are the center point of all religious faiths, and every faith has come from us.
Interesting.
Nitin, it is said that Jain wisdom was revealed by 24 great spiritual leaders, which you've mentioned, the Tirthankars. Can you tell us a little bit about who these people were?
Sure. So the Tirthankars are common men and women like us, right? So Jains believe through our meditation, penance, and reflecting on our soul as a separate from this world, and believing in the purity and calmness of that soul, we would be able to break away from the cycle of life and death. And as we break away from the cycle of life and death, we get into enlightenment and get nirvana. In this process, when the soul gets to a point of Keval Gyan, where he gets all knowledge given to him, where he can see the past, the present, the future of all life forms and everything, there are these 24 Tirthankars that then explain to the rest of us what this is all about and what we need to do, what we need to follow to attain nirvana ourselves. Those 24 men are called Tirthankars, and they established the dharma, the Jain religion, the faith at that point, and the process to get to the point of Siddhashila or nirvana, and hence they are called Tirthankars. There were 24 of them in this lifetime or life cycle. There will be 24 in future. There were 24 in the past. And it's not like it's just 72. It will be forever in the past. You can go, there were these 24 every life cycle. And in numerous future times, there will be these 24 in future too. So current 24 is what we revere, we pray, we find their temples, and we worship them as they showed us a path to moksha.
So in the Jain tradition, is there a concept of God or the divine?
God, the creator, doesn't exist in Jainism. We are the first atheists of the world. We do not believe in God as the creator. God as a perfect soul, God as a person who has shed all his karmas, God as a person who is in the state of constant bliss, lives in Siddhashila, and is energized with the positivity of the soul, that perfect soul, that perfect God, yes, we do believe in him, we revere to him, we want to be like him, and we can become like him. Hence, we do not believe that God is outside of us, that some third entity. It is within us. That's why Jains also start with saying Jai Jinendra, which basically is praying to the Lord in you, because one day you can become that Jina. So we pray to the Jina in you, and we bow down to the Jina in you, because one day you can become God yourself. And I pray to that God that is within you.
Wow. Okay. So in Jain philosophy, what is the purpose of life, and do people have souls?
Absolutely. Life is nothing but this soul. Everything that is not the soul is what we call samsara, or this earth, this being. Our body is not ours too. We will leave this body and the soul will move away. So the Jain philosophy of life is that it is given, right? It will exist. You are in this mundane existence of life and death and life and death. You will feel the pleasure, the pains, you will have emotions, you will get angry at people, you would be annoyed, you would love somebody. All these feelings and everything will create you to always have bondage of karmas, and you're carrying this bondage of karmas from one life form to another. They will fruit themselves in different shapes and forms. Good karmas will give you good times, bad karmas will give you bad times, and there is this constant cycle of this. And Jainism in its philosophy says to break away from that continuum of life and death and break away from it and get to nirvana or moksha, where you're in constant bliss, constant happiness. You don't have pleasure and pains, and you live there for life, and you become a supreme soul. And that is the purpose of life, that you get to that supreme soul status, because everything else is momentary. You may enjoy a moment right now. You may like your first piece of chocolate when you get it. But if someone gives you and forces you to eat 100 pieces of chocolate, the 100th piece is like you want to throw up, right? So whatever is pleasure also turns into pain. And hence, there is nothing good about all this. It is all transitionary, and you need to get out of this and get into a state of constant bliss. And that is moksha.
So what is samsara?
Samsara is this existence of the soul in coordination with the other five dravyas, right? So soul is the jeev, right? That is the atman. That's the body. That's the thing that goes from one life to another. But this soul attaches itself to the ajeev, which is the particles around us, our table, chairs, our body, they're all ajeev, right? So jeev, ajeev, and then we live in a time, there is this dharma, dharma is the state of rest, the state of motion, the universe that we are in, and time. And these are the other four substances. So total, these six dravyas, as we call it, the soul, the non-soul particles, right, which is all the physical world around us, the universe around us, the time around us, the forces of motion and the forces of rest. These are the six things that is the sansar for us, right? Take the other five out, and the pure soul is what you want to be at. And that is what you want to be. So shedding of the other five is shedding of the sansar, the shedding of the getting rid of the sansar that's around you.
Wow. So help me understand what karma is.
So karma for us, Jains, is these particles that are floating around us, right? And the soul, with its thought, with its action, right, with its words, attracts these particles and attaches them to itself. So right now, we have this conversation going on. And during this conversation, we are all thinking about the soul and its existence, right? So all the good karma particles, right, are getting attached to our soul right now because we're talking about the Atman, the soul, right? The me that is going to live. And somewhere there is a thought process about, oh my God, if there is a way to break away from this, then what is that way of breaking out? So there's a positive thought that's going on, and all this is attracting positive karmas, and they're attaching to yourself. At the same time, one of us can be thinking, oh my God, how long will this last? Why am I sitting here? I don't understand this. I don't believe in it. And that is the negative side of a thought process. And that negative side of a thought process is attracting the negative karma particles. And then the negative karma particles are getting attached to the soul. The positive and the negative karma particles then stay with the soul, and they will remain with it, and they get rid of it either automatically over time or by giving their fruit. So good karma particle will give you back, let's say, an increase in your salary in 100 years or in your next life form, or make you a king in the next life form. So it fruits itself, and then it go away. So the natural fruitation process will also happen, but we believe we cannot live in this natural fruitation process. We need to take care of it on our own. And the way you take care of it on your own is by sitting in meditation and thinking about the soul and thinking about all the bad you have done or would have done. You ask forgiveness from everybody that you would have done any harm to. And you ask for penance and you say, I was wrong, I did wrong. And as you reflect in that and you come back to yourself saying, I was wrong at that time, now you're getting rid of these karmas, of these negative karmas. And in the pure state of the soul in the Siddhashala, Robert, it's not that you want all the good karmas only. You have to even get rid of the good karmas. So that stage is devoid of any karma, whether good or bad. So all the good karmas also have to be taken into and removed from your soul, because you don't need them either. The soul in its pure state is devoid of all karmas, good or bad. Now, the good karmas make you feel good and they'll give you all the good things that you want in life. But one day you have to get rid of that too. And if you look at all our 24 Tirthankars, they were all born in as kings. They were Chakravarti, some of them, right? Which means they were the king of the entire earth, right? And one fine day, if you look at the stories of what caused them to like leave everything, some of them just saw a dewdrop on a leaf on their way out into the garden. And when they were coming back, that dewdrop dried up. And they were like, if the dewdrop dries up, this thing of beauty dries up, then will this last? Will this kingdom last for me? And they immediately renounce the world and go and take meditation and go into penance with themselves. And that's how it is that they think even the beauty will not last forever, right? So if the beauty will not last forever, if the good will not last forever, then why am I worried about and staying myself saying that this is the best? And that is what, that theory of karma, right? Where even the good karmas have to go away and have to be shed, is where we take a tangent off the karma theory of the Hinduism, right? And we move out of it and we like, I don't need that either. I don't want that either.
So karmas actually transcend our lifetimes and move with us until we clear them.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. And that's where I personally believe many times people think about when something is wrong, being done wrong to them, or something good doesn't happen, right? The thought is always the victim story, right? Where we tell, you did it, or I'm not doing this. He was bad to me, and this happened and that happened. And we Jains are now taught and always have been taught to think about the accountable theory. And the accountable theory may not have answers because you do not know if you did something wrong right now. But you could have done something wrong in previous lifetimes, right? That is coming to fruition now, right? And the soul is in constant interaction with each other. So there are scriptures after scriptures of a religion where the two souls have met in previous lifetimes, right? And they have killed each other. So in one lifetime, one kills the other. In the other lifetime, the other person takes revenge. And that constant is going on. I have like stories which I can say where there's constancy of this killing each other. And then finally, one lifetime, one person realizes, goes and asks our monks, why is this happening? Why did that person get killed? Or why am I wanting to kill him? And then he tells him the story of the previous lifetimes. And he's like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. And he asks forgiveness from that soul and he moves on, right? When those stories are told to us, it creates the feeling of an accountable story in our lives. And whenever something happens to me personally, right, or has happened to us in our families, we always are taught to say, okay, we must have done something wrong and it's coming to fruition. Let it go. And sometimes when we slip and fall and everybody, like the common theory is like, oh, only you just slipped and fell and nothing happened, nothing more happened. Think what worse could have happened, right? So when you think about what are the possibilities of the worst, whatever is happening, you take it in a stride and you say, yeah, okay, that's it. Let's go on. Let's move on. So that not reflecting and like mulling over our issues is some of the facts that like we have been, like it's difficult to adapt, like get it into a normal course of your life because we are samsari jeevs. So we are also having all emotions of love, hatred, jealousy, anger, ego, pride, and everything. But we have been taught many times to reflect and say, okay, it's happening because I must have done something and let's move on. So
I'm going to have a serious conversation with my soul. So what is meant by the path of liberation, the moksha marg in Jainism? And I'm sorry if I mispronounced it.
Moksha marg, right? Marg means the path, as you said. Moksha means the place of this, the position where the soul has infinite powers, is happy, is blissful, and it is devoid of any pleasure, pain, and lives in serenity forever and ever and ever. never takes birth again, never dies, doesn't worry about you and me. Like we say our gods don't give us anything. They left everything. So why would they give us anything, right? And Moksha Marg is basically the path to get there. How does a soul get there? And in that process, the soul has to understand, believe, first of all, right? It starts with the Samyak Darshan, right? And Samyak Gyan and Samyak Charitra. These are the three tenets of Jain philosophy. Samyak Darshan is that I believe in it. I believe that this is the path, right? I have to get there. And if I don't believe that this is what I have to be, or I have to get to a position of nirvana, forget it. I will never follow on the path if I don't believe in it. Then I will have to have the knowledge of what it means to get there, right? That it's like in a normal exercise, you first plan what you have to do, then you think how you will do it, and then you do it, right? And this is what we say, the Trinity in Jainism. Samyak Darshan is the understanding, the perception of knowing it. Samyak Gyan is the knowledge how to do it. And then Samyak Charitra. Charitra is you actually doing it. And in that process, you believe with the 5 paps, like the 5 things that we don't do, which is being a non-violent, we don't steal, right? We would not, non-chastity, non-possessiveness, right? And asatya, achore, and not say the lies, right? So these are the 5 things. So they start with that. Now, if many times we Jains believe that taking the vow to just follow these 5 things of being non-violent, not steal, not tell a lie, remain in chastity, and non-possessiveness, it will immediately control all your emotions, right? Simple thing like saying, I'm not going to be, I won't lie, right? Many philosophies in the world have talked about truth as the basic, right? Even Christianity strongly believes truth will make you free, right? Truth will make you free. And why? And the moment you take that vow that I will not tell a lie and only say the truth, there are so many moments, right, where you'll realize, I can't do this. I can't say this. I will not be a party to this issue. And you start thinking the right and the wrong in the right way. And if I can follow the 5 basic, not doing the 5 paps, as we call it, or the 5 infirmities, I'm on my path of moksha. I've started, right? I may not get it in this lifetime because what I've done in the past, I have to carry that baggage, and that I don't know how that will fruit itself when it will come into fruition, right? And how intense it is, right? I believe today I'm a very righteous person. I believe in God and I pray and I do this and I do that. But in the past lifetimes, what if I have killed somebody with full venom in me? And right, one thing is you step on an ant and you kill an ant unknowingly as you're walking, right? So even for forgiveness from that soul, Jain philosophy. And one is that you take pride in saying, I'm going to kill this. And then you showcase that. One of our stories is about a king who goes and kills a lion. Not only he kills the lion, he wants to bring back the dead lion with his head, and then he puts that lion in under his throne so he can put his foot on it and show to the entire world that he killed this lion. The negative sentiments and that he got from all that took him to create bondage of karmas that would take him to the 7th hell, which is lifetimes and lifetimes of pain, right? Then he sat with Bhagwan Mahavir, our 24th Tirthankar, and Bhagwan Mahavir told him about his life, that this is what you have done and this is what you did. He repented, he cried, he felt sorry for the soul of the lion. He asked for forgiveness from that soul of the lion, and his karmic bondage of 7th hell got reduced to 1st hell only, right? And he is supposed to be going to be our first Tirthankar in the next time frame. So you can get negative karmas, you can get a bondage of bad karmas, but if you reflect inside and you feel sorry and you feel that you did something that should not have been done and you ask for forgiveness, that's moving out of that vicious cycle as a tangent. And when you come out of that tangent, you can see things clearly and you can proceed to what we call the moksha marg, which is the way to liberation, the path to liberation. Because you want to get rid of this mundane cycle of life and death. That is painful. It's painful. Every life form is painful. It will come with all its problems.
Nitin, it is my understanding that the Jain tradition is grounded, very firmly grounded in some major values. I'd like to explore these with you. So I'm going to mention one by one and we'll work our way through them. The first that everyone hears about is ahimsa, the idea of nonviolence. Can you speak to the importance of nonviolence in the Jain tradition?
Nonviolence is core to Jain philosophy. I would say the way it is described, it has so many shapes and forms. And first of all, it begins with not doing any harm to any living being, right? Now, living beings are not just humans. They're animals. They're even ants and caterpillars, right? And then not only that, we have living beings in plant life, right? We were the first to say plants are living beings. Obviously, science only discovered plants as living beings less than about 100 years ago, but we always believe plants are living beings. And similarly, we believe fire, air, water are also living beings, right? So even harming them is not allowed by thought, by action, and by speech, right? So you don't even think of harming and saying, okay, you know what, I'll make sure that I hit that man tomorrow when I see him, or because he was bad to me yesterday. The thought itself doesn't need to come. You don't talk about it, so you don't yell and shout, and you don't harm anybody's feelings because of that. And by action, you don't do it. And then we multiply these three things into krit, karit, anumodna. Krit means to do it yourself, right? Karit means to get it done by somebody else. And anumodna means to support somebody else who is doing it, right? So if I do violence against living beings by mind, body, speech, by doing it myself, getting it done by someone, or by supporting somebody who's doing it, I am doing ahimsa, and the opposite of that is ahimsa. It is that deep in our philosophy, right? And obviously, Jainism was one of the core influencers for Gandhi, right? And Gandhiji adopted Jainism and its philosophies, and he talked about nonviolent in a more practical approach, right, to everything. He is the one person who said, okay, so many people got killed in the Chori Chora incident, and at a police station, he stopped his entire movement overnight. He said, it is going to be a non-violent movement. I would get freedom. I want freedom. Not one soul should be hurt. So if at that night the mob accidentally burnt up the whole train station, the police station, and constables got killed, he stopped right there, right? That is the philosophy of nonviolence in Jainism. It is deep rooted in even fighting for your cause. You cannot think about harming somebody else. You cannot.
Another one of these values, and I may be mispronouncing this, I believe it is anakantavada, the value of many-sidedness. Can you speak to that?
This is the one that I love the most, because it provides a medium for all of us to engage in a dialogue. There are perspectives, right? Every one of us is seeing the same elephant in different ways. It's a story of the blind man and the elephant. Someone sees it as a rope, someone sees it as a big pillar, someone sees it as a swing, someone sees a part of as a fan, because they're touching different parts of the elephant. Only when the blindfold is removed and they see the entire elephant, they realize this is an elephant and not its parts of the body. And that is anikantvad. There are multiple paths to the truth. And that truth is then to be evaluated in its right perspective once all the perspectives are brought together and looked into and evaluated and understood. And no one is right. No one is wrong either, right? Because from a limited knowledge and a limited perspective and a limited experience, that's what we are experiencing and that's what we are doing. And that's where I personally believe the concept of anikantvad has been used in various management philosophies in a very uptight, in a very upright and existing concept of having a discussion, talking about it and saying to each other what, like I personally always, like when I am talking to people and I feel annoyed or like, I tell those people, my experience of you is this. And why am I getting that experience? Why am I feeling this way? And then the other person is immediately not reacting because I didn't say, hey, you're bad to me. I say, my experience is you're not being fair to me. And then they are like, why do you get that feeling? Why do you believe that way? And then I say, you said this and you did that. So I'm experiencing that you are not being fair to me. And that has led to a dialogue and resolved the issues rather than I believe in my truth and my truth is that you're bad to me and I argue and I carry that baggage. And so anikantvad for me is that understanding of those multiple viewpoints to arrive at the right truth, right? Whatever that truth is. And that's
so interesting because it in modern day society, we're so into internalizing that thought of this person's not good to me, this person's mean to me, without an expression of my experience of you is this, to initiate that dialogue. We don't even get to the dialogue. We hold the thought.
And we carry that baggage. We carry it with us for life. Let's say two brothers, right? There is an issue that happened, right? Something happened. They meet, they talk, and then whenever there's an argument, all that past comes out. And it is never buried. It is never let go, right? Like the song Let Go is so Jain in its philosophy. You need to let go. You need to just ask for forgiveness. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry, I may have come across this way. I ask for forgiveness and you move on. And having that perspective, having that understanding, having that path to the truth, and sitting down and having that dialogue, right? I've had my colleagues in my office and my friends that I've engaged to have those dialogues with their parents, with their brothers, with their sisters. I'm like, you have a party every year, you meet every year, and you always despise having your cousin home because you don't want him. So why don't you sit down and have a dialogue with them and say, hey, 4 Christmases ago or 9 Christmas ago, you did this to me and I'm carrying that baggage and I want to get rid of this baggage this time, right? And that is core to Jain philosophy of getting those perspectives to meet at a point where the real truth is known, right? And sometimes I always say, we're always angry with our parents. Deep down, we're always like, my dad didn't do this and my mom didn't do this and they did this and they could have this. And I tell those people, guys, there's not a book out there in the world that teaches you to be a perfect father, right? We don't have like any experiment to run through to become a good father. You are our experiments. We try to do our best, and those best may not be good for you. So talk it out rather than holding that grudge because your dad tried to do the best in his perspective, in his way he was doing the best. Whatever that was, maybe it was getting pizza on your table every day and not getting authentic foods from around the world. But he was trying to make ends meet to get pizza on the table every night, and respect that and tell him that, right? That I found that to be strange, but today I feel why you did it. And it starts with the personal life. To be very honest, the way Anikantwad has been explained to the world, it's always about global issues. It's about global matters and countries fighting and religions fighting with each other. And everyone talks about Jainism's Anikantwad there. I take it deep down to your family unit, to your brothers and sisters, to your parents. And do you fix the issues there first? Because they are one of the biggest reasons to carry forward your life. And that samsara will continue if you don't forgive your parents or your brothers and sisters. It has to start there, to understand their perspectives so you can better be reflective on their effort and not be judgmental about their efforts.
So Nitin, we've explored two of the great values in the Jain faith. One, nonviolence, the other one, many-sidedness. There's also a third, which is non-attachment, or I believe it's stated as aparigraha or something of that nature. Can you speak to that value in the Jain faith?
Absolutely. Non-attachment is where it will all begin, because if we are attached, we will never let go. And if you'll never let go, you will never be able to forgive somebody. You will never be able to enjoy the other soul, because you will be attached. And that non-attachment, right, aparigraha, is important in various forms. It's in relationship, obviously, right, because that is how the forgiveness side will work. The true nature of being you as you and not being attached to everybody is important. But aparigraha is also the material detachment, right? So having a bigger house, having a bigger car, having a bigger backyard, bigger boat, how many chocolates would you need, right, to be happy? So, and then I personally believe that aparigraha, the non-attachment, would be our solution to our biggest problem that we have right now, which is climate action, right? If we can stop saying that we need more, right? And I personally say to people, take the refrigerator of your house and throw it out, right? Because the moment you take the refrigerator out and throw it away, you will only get enough to eat for a day or two, because you will know it will get spoiled otherwise. And the moment you do that, you will stop buying and spending on things that you don't need, right? This refrigerator has created our thing to say, okay, let me just buy it and put it in the house, right? I teach economics at Drexel University, right? And when I look at this from a cost of manufacturing, sometimes I look at these $5 t-shirts and $10 t-shirts, and I'm like, the cost of the land, putting seed into it, fertilizers, growing the plant, taking cotton out, thawing the cotton, putting it into yarn, taking that yarn, putting it into a cloth, taking that cloth, cutting it and stitching it, taking that and putting buttons on it, putting it in a box, making it somewhere in another part of the world, bringing it to New York, taking it out of customs here, putting it on a truck and putting it into a warehouse, and then to a shop floor with lights and everything. All that only costs $10? No way. But we have tried to say, if we can produce more, we can reduce our cost per head. Whether we want that more or not, we don't know. And now look at the amount of production increases that we have done, right? And the amount of carbon footage increase that has happened. Because do we really need a $5 t-shirt every day in our closets? I tell all my economics students and I tell them, this Christmas, be very careful what you're buying for your gifts. Because don't buy a gift for the heck of buying a gift that, oh, you're on my list. We'll give you, let's buy a $10 t-shirt because I have to give you something. Don't. Separate your list out and say, this year I'm giving gift to these 5, and next year I'll give to other 5, and I'll give something that they use and there's worthy and value to it. When I went to the Parliament of World Religions in Melbourne, there was this guy who was there was this organic shirt that they were selling, right, that was produced in right way and with no carbon issues. And like 2009, it was a revolutionary thought at that time. Today, organic is everywhere in the world, right? And at that time, that shirt was priced at $65. Everyone would go to that booth. They all liked it. They all were like, wow, it's soft, it's nice, it's this. But the guy told me that he's not able to sell a lot of these because of the price point, because value will come at a cost, right?
Absolutely.
When I came to US in 1996, I went in that Christmas and I found a Levi jeans for $22. And I was like, wow, $22 for a Levi jeans. 2019, I went again and I found the same Levi jeans at $22 again. 24 years later, 23 years later, the cost of manufacturing has not changed anything. And that's where I feel economically, if we are not going to price things right, we will never create the real demand. Right now, this is all fake demand, right? Because you want to give this $5 to somebody, t-shirt, so there's a need for this $5 t-shirt. And that creates this aparigraha. It loses the aparigraha. There is attachment. There is this, like your closets after closets of your clothes that you don't use, right? And in this pandemic world of COVID, we have all realized our closets have not been used. And many of the shirts and t-shirts have not been worn because we are being sitting at home all the time. And let's reflect back on that and say, do I need it? I have a friend who says, if he buys one shirt in his closet, he has to make sure one shirt leaves the closet, right? Now that is, he has quantified, and that's a Jain philosophy. He doesn't belong in Jain faith, but he does that. And that's where when I say, oh my God, this guy is following Jain philosophy. I am not attached. I need 10 t-shirts in my closet or 10 shirts in my closet. I'll only buy one if I can throw one out because I've used it enough and I've worn it enough. And that's a parigraha. That's non-attachment.
The last of the values that I'd love to explore with you is abstinence. The fact that a kind of asceticism, the idea that some level of abstaining from physical pleasures is sort of acceptable or desirable. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely, right? So if you follow the discussions we are having, right, where we are saying non-violent, right, then we talk about anikantvad, then we talk about aparigraha. As you do that, right, you get more and more you internalize the whole situation. You're getting more closer and closer to the soul. And as you get closer and closer to the soul and you realize your own person, the abstinence from all worldly pleasures is key, because now you have internalized it so much that you do not find pleasure in anything outside. You do not find pleasure in all this attachment of the house and the refrigerators and the cars and these things. And yes, this abstinence begins with physical, right? Where you do not want to get involved in a sexual activity or of self or with other partners or anything. And the idea is that that is also momentary and it is not going to be like bliss forever, right? The moment may feel nice, but post that moment and as life ages, all this doesn't make any sense anymore, right? So why give it up when your body doesn't need it? Give it up willingly when you can give up, and you should give up, right? And that's what abstinence from physical pleasures means. But I have taken abstinence from everything around, right? I should, things will happen, right? There is this constant reflection from others always on your success, right? People will come and tell you, wow, Nitin, thank you so much for doing this. Or Nitin, you're doing this, this, and this. Like when I was announced as the chair of the parliament, I got so many like feedback from people and thank yous. And I can live in that pleasure and I'll be like, look what I did. I got it. I made it in life, right? I made it in the interfaith movement and I'm this and I'm that. No, I see it that it's a duty. It's a responsibility that has been given to me. And I pray every day, Lord, help me execute this to your best satisfaction. Right? That's what I want to be. Now, I can take pleasure and enjoy it and announce it more to the world and do all that, or I can feel connected to it from an internalization of my own soul, that I did something, why I got this. And to be able to talk about in an interfaith movement with men and women who have spent their life at the parliament, and I'm like one of the younger person in that team, I feel so honored that I can't even tell you how much it comes to me. And that's where I feel abstinence. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm the first Indian, I'm the first Jain, look what I got it, look, I should announce it, people should get me on newspapers, people should interview me. I'm like, let me just do my work. Because if I do my work, that's what I've been made chair for. I've not been made for chair for anything else but to do the work of the parliament. And if I believe in it, let me do it right.
It's extraordinary. I had never thought of this until this moment, but what you just said has made me really think that what all these values have in common is freedom. It's letting go. It's in non-violence, I let go of what I hate and what I fear. In non-attachment, I let go of what I love or what I like or what I desire. In many-sidedness, I let go of my opinions and my belief that I am completely right and everyone else is wrong. And in asceticism, I really let go of the body in many ways, of the demands and the possession of my body. That all of these values are about letting go and experiencing a deep freedom. Am I correct? Absolutely.
Absolutely, Jose. That is the core. In the end, you want to get liberated. You want to be in that moment, like, and when you meditate and you get to that internal position, I tell you, it is so blissful. Like, not that I've gotten to that moment many times in my meditation, but in a while when I get so happy. I feel like if the world were to end today and I were to die right now, who cares? Who cares? I am what I am, right? And I enjoy that moment, right? And that for me as a Jain, right, we need to live a life to die a death where we celebrate our life and death together. We welcome death, right? So for me, the moments of meditation where I feel like if anything were to end, if everything were to end today, I'm still happy. I made it. I did it. It gives me so much pleasure to get there at that point, because freedom is a birthright, right? One of the freedom fighter movements, Bal Gangadhar Tilak said that in one of his speeches. But more than the birthright, it's the natural tendency of the soul, right? The soul is not bonded. It is bonded by its own karmas. In itself, soul is free. It's a free spirit that moves around. And we need to get to that free spirit, the true self, the true us.
So what many people would see as being attaining a title or position of, a feeling of grandeur or, dare I say, ego within the Jain tradition, would I be right in saying that's more of it's a position of service?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything.
Such a different way to look at it.
And if you can get rid of that ego, Robert, it makes it easier. It makes it easier. Many times when you're I'm like a chief financial officer, right? So there are times when I'm like, when I'm saying, do it, right? It is me, right? But then I say, okay, why are you not seeing the way I'm seeing it? And then when people tell me how they are seeing it, right? And I don't have that ego that I'm the CFO, so you better do it the way I tell you. We create beautiful solutions. We create energy. They learn from me, I learn from them, right? And it's a beautiful medium because I'm not attached. And then I say to everybody, there were CFOs before me, there will be CFOs after me for this company. I'm just a transitionary. And at this moment, It is my job, my duty to be a CFO. It is not my right, right? So let me do what I think the way I want to do it with your help. And you need to be representing my work. And together we will create. And honestly, there are moments in management circles where I believe that many times my teams have just given me so much learning that I would have never learned without applying these principles of Jainism in work life.
Wow. Oh, to change the pillars of industry. It might be a much better place.
Yeah.
So moving along, what are the major spiritual practices of Jainism? Is it prayer, meditation, fasting, charity?
Yes. If you look at it from a simplified perspective, right? If you can live a non-detached life where you do not carry your passions, egos, ethos, pathos before you, but they're always following you or they're within you, you're a Jain. From a concept perspective, the person who believes in himself or herself as a carrier of their own karmas is a Jain. Now, obviously, in a community, in a society, all this takes shapes of various traditions and forms and norms, right? The society always evolves itself into, oh, you should get up in the morning and the first thing you do get up is you do Naukar mantra. You should go to a temple. You should pray to the Lord. You should sit in meditation for some time. You should do donation every day because if you have anything to give, you should give away, right? That day. You should do so many, we have the rosary, right? So you should do the rosary beads, so many every day. And then we have this concept of samayik where you, for 48 minutes, you need to sit with yourself in one position and not worry about anything. If there's a phone call coming, if there's a fire, you need to stay in that row, in that sitting position or standing position, however you are for 48 minutes, absolving of any outside attraction, anything that distracts you, anything that happens. And the first time you do it, you'll realize that within 5 minutes, you're always like, oh, what's going on? I can do that. But as you practice, 48 minutes go by. And then there are people who I know who do 3 of those, 48, 3 times at one shot, right? And they are undisturbed for those 48 minutes times 3 in their cycles. And they're just praying, thinking about what they did in the past days, ask for forgiveness, seek forgiveness. And then they sit down and they really meditate on the powers of their soul. I am, right? So one of the biggest things that Jains believe is, I am. I am everything. I can be the He-Man. I am the Wonder Woman. I am the person, right? So right now in the COVID, many of our gurus have told us to keep reciting, saying that I am healthy. I'm healthy. And that's all we say. I'm healthy. I'm healthy. I'm healthy. And as we say that, we attract the positive karmas that keep us healthy, right? That has warding off the whole COVID situation for us, right? And that is, so we strongly believe in this conditioning of our own mind to what we want our future to be. We can create our own universe of the future. So we say that, right? I will say this because you're all United Palace people. And 2 years ago, my son's Arangetram, the dance graduation, was at United Palace. We loved your theater when we saw it. When we were thinking about it, it didn't fall in our budget. So we struggled with the budget aspect of it. And I sat and meditated. And all I said, I want to see my son do his graduation on this floor. I am seeing it. I am seeing it. And I started meditating to say, I am seeing it. And then after the meditation, I called your manager, Michael, and he said, Nitin, come by, we'll work with you. We can work with you and we'll see what we can do. And I created that universe of a possibility that 1st of September for me, 2018, is one of the most cherished days of my life because my son performed at the United Palace Theater and you supported it. And it was the meditation of that I'm seeing him doing his graduation in theater. It manifested itself because I created that universe of doing it. And that I can say I created it because I then worked on those possibilities. But as I created that, you guys supported it. And you are always in my blessings list, because if you had not supported it, we would have not been able to do it. So there is this thought of, I want to do this. And then the universe comes to support you to do it. And that is how we come together and follow our daily processes. And obviously there are rituals and things that you should do, what to eat, what not to eat, fasting and all that. But deep down, the meditation is what you have to do to create your universe the right way. And find your partners in that universe.
Wow. So do the Jains actually have sacred scriptures?
Yes. So the 24 Tirthankaras, when they are giving sermons, right, they give sermons in an auditorium that is created by celestial beings, right? And those and all men, women, and all kinds of people, and even animals go and sit in that sermon. And the Lord's voice is falling, and everybody understands in their own language. So it is like no one is translating anything, right? We all understand in our own languages. And then there are these Ganadhars who are helping the humans understand what God is saying. So we understand from that perspective, but the animals and everybody understand on their own and everything. So that is what we call as a Shrut Parampara, because we heard it and we learned from that. In about last 2000 years or so, right, or 1500 years or so, our gurus realized that mankind is having struggle retaining the powers through only listening, right? So they started writing some of these verbal sermons, and those writings have now converted into scriptures and books that we use. Now, obviously, the original scriptures exist the way they were written 1600, 1700 years ago. But there are so many translations and like adaptations. Like good thing about Jainism is that you can take your original scripture and you can write your own interpretation of what you are hearing from it or after reading it. And that is allowed because that is your interpretation. That is your Anikantvad, right? Now, obviously, you don't do it till you get to a point where you really understand it. And if you don't understand it, you go and ask the gurus and they will help you understand it. So we have to toe the clean line of like, we do not misrepresent the scripture and change the philosophy. But at the same time, I have my own experience of that scripture and I can write that down and convert it into a book and present it, and people will take it and read it, and that is allowed. But the original scriptures in their original forms do exist, yes. But they are, again, translated documents or written documents of the Lord's original sermons, yes.
Nitin, in the Jain tradition, is there a clergy, for example, or a monastic tradition? Can you speak to that?
So the way the Jain, our sanghs are divided into two, right? One is the Muni Sangh, right? Where people who have given up the world, who have left their houses, and they live as a congregation of themselves. All those people live together. And then we, the worldly peoples who are still in the world, but we belong to the Jain philosophy. So these people who have left the world, they are called gurus, munis, Aryaka matas, and all that. And in that, obviously, we have two traditions primarily, the Digambar tradition and the Shwetambar tradition. The Digambar tradition, they have given up even clothes, right? And in the Shwetambar tradition, they only wear one piece of cloth, right? A white cloth. So that, but they have still renounced their families, they've given up homes, they live in like charitable institution places if they need, or in open places. We make huts overnight for them if they have to. We cannot find a place for them to live or something. So that group of people who have given up the world, right, are authorized to give sermons, are authorized to train the people who have not given up. So they kind of form a clergy kind of a concept, but still their job as a clergy is not what they have given up. They do not give up the world to become that, but they are ones who can then help us understand what it is. So we revert to them as sadhus, sadhvis, gurus, acharyas, upadhyas by multiple names, matajis, and we aspire to be like them, that one day we get the strength to give up the world and only think about our soul and live on our own. So yes, that's how it is.
Mm.
And please correct me if I'm wrong, but it is these individuals who take what I think I call the 5 vows, which you mentioned earlier, of nonviolence, speaking the truth, not stealing, celibacy, and non-possessiveness. Is that correct?
Yes. So those 5 vows can be taken by the worldly people like us, you and me also. The way we take it is, we will take it, but we will make a mistake. Then we'll ask for repentance or things like that. And there are many of us who would like take it for like 6 hours, 6 months, 1 year. So we take it for a given amount of time. These people, the munis and aryas, acharyas and all these people, they have taken those vows for life. Right? So they are not ever going to give up on that. And if they ever fail on any of them, they have their way of repentance, which is stronger, and they do that. They do that, and willingly they will never get into of like breaking of the vow. But sometimes the vow can get broken because of some other reasons, right? So one of the vows they would have taken is that they would only eat pure food, or only food cooked after sunrise and within 48 minutes and things like that, right? But we as Shravakgan, when we go and like offer them food, we don't realize that and we make a mistake. And then when they are eating it, they realize that. So they immediately have to take penance, because their theory is the accountable theory. They don't say, oh, you did wrong. Why did you do this to me? Their theory is accountable theory. And they're like, some karma in the past has come to fruition that I cannot eat food anymore. And I need to take penance right now. And I need to sit down, and they give up food right away. Right. So that is where these people have taken vows, and they have taken vows for a life. Their vows are not, we call them sarvadesh tyag. Sarvadesh means in any shape, way, or form, they cannot give up these vows.
Wow. Wow. Do the Jains have centers of worship?
Yes. So there is always this, we have temples, right? There are a lot of old temples. If you go back in India, there are temples that are 2,000 years old that are Jain philosophy. Some of the ruins of the Harappa and Mohenjo-daro cultures also show Jain idols. And so it is strongly believed that we were there in existence as a religion even 5,000 years ago, when those ruins have been dated back to. Is a place where we hold the idol of a Jinnah. And the whole concept there is to physically see that this is what the soul is. And it is this stage that you want to get to. So it becomes inspirational for us, right? And we also believe those temples will create, like if there is a temple, then it is easier to explain what Jain philosophy is. So I would encourage all of you to visit Jain Center of America in Queens. And if you want, we can do a tour together, and I can walk you through the entire temple and how it is. So yes, we have those temples. We create temples. They exist. And then within us, there is a group of Jains who do not believe in this concept of temple, right? Because they say, if I have to meditate for myself, then why am I creating this attachment to something outside, right? So they believe in not having temples, and they just sit with their atman in a place. They have no idols in places of worship, sit and meditate, and they are sthanakvasis. They have this concept of sthanak, where there is no idol, there is no picture of the Lord or nothing like that. And so we believe, see, the theory of the Atman, the soul, is core. But society, community manifested itself in different shapes and ways and forms, right? And so I believe in all of them. In the end, it's a soul. So truly the soul is what needs to be celebrated. Everything else helps support that, right? And that's how I see it.
Nitin, do the Jains celebrate religious holidays? For example, Christians have Easter and Christmas. A Buddhist would have the parinirvana of the Lord Buddha. Are there religious holidays like that within the Jain tradition?
Absolutely. So our religious holidays are broken up into two, right? One is when we celebrate the actual birth or nirvana of our lords, right? So the 24 Tirthankars, when they were born, or when they got nirvana, or we also have the day they took renunciation, the day they got Kevalgyan. So all that is celebrated, and they are done for this 24 Tirthankars, right? So happens, Kalyana Jayanti comes around in the month of March, April, depending on when the 13th day of the full moon section of that month happens. And then obviously Diwali is the day Mahavir Bhagwan, the 24th Tirthankar, got nirvana. So we celebrate that. So those religious festivals are core, right? But there is another set of religious festivals that are not dependent on the 24 Tirthankars, and they are the celebration of our value system, our penance, our meditation. And we do that. They also at regular intervals. So one of them, for example, is we call Payushan and Daslakshana. So the Payushan are the Shvetamba traditions, and the Daslakshana are the Digambar traditions, where for 18 days we are celebrating Jain values, right? Of non-chastity, of aparigraha, of saying the truth, of not stealing, of controlling our kashayas and things like that, right? Our passions and everything. So those days we celebrate, right? Then there are 2 times a year something that we call as Ayambil, where Jains take a vow for 8 or 10 days that they will eat bland. There is no salt, no nothing, and they only eat one grain. That grain will, and everything is made of that grain with no salt, no nothing. Controlling your hunger is the first step towards meditation, because when you're sitting down to meditate and you're hungry, your body gives up, right? So you have to first learn how to control your body with managing that hunger. So these days of Ayambil, as we call them, help us, right, to learn how to control our hunger, right, and things like that. So we celebrate those festivals. They are also considered big. So there is this thing about value-based festivals and event-based festivals that we have both of them, and Jains enjoy and celebrate both of them with equal ferocity and like passion. Yes.
So for any of our viewers or listeners, how could one become a Jain?
There's no becoming of a Jain, Robert, right? You are a Jain. Everyone is a soul. Everyone is a Jain. The day you believe and agree on the belief of the power of your soul, that it is infinite knowledge, it has infinite strength, it has infinite perception, it has no pleasure or pain, it is not big or small, it is not black or white or red or green, it is devoid of all karmas, then you're a Jain, right? And then as you believe in that power of your own soul and your ability to drive your own universe, all the rest will fall in place, right? temple, puja, doing that, they will all come naturally, right? Once you believe that, so as I said earlier, right? If I have the right perception and that I believe that this is what it is, right? If I agree to a continuum of existence, right? As we know, the science of physics has broken energy into two forms. At some places, it is particle based, so it is very discrete. And in other places, it is wave based, where it is a continuum. Many faiths of the world have focused on that particle based approach of the soul, right? One existence. We just don't believe in one existence. We believe in this continuity, that it existed and will exist forever. So if science can prove that particle dynamics and wave dynamics, consider Jain to be the wave dynamics of that soul.
This is amazing. I'm really enjoying this open heart. So, Nitin, how does one become a Jain?
No one becomes a Jain, Robert. You are a Jain, right? You're a Jain if you believe in the power of the soul, its ability to have infinite knowledge, infinite perception, infinite happiness, no pleasure or pain, no black or white, no red, green colors, nothing big, small. That soul is everlasting, existent phenomena of what we are. That continuum of a soul, if you believe in that continuum of soul, that there is something after this life, and there was something before the life, you're a Jain, right? As science talks about the energy in forms of particle dynamics, right, where it's discrete in its unit, and then also talks about wave dynamics of a continuation of an energy, right, and that it can never be destroyed nor created. It changes forms from one to another. If you believe in the wave dynamics, then Jain philosophy is the wave dynamic of the soul. It's always existent. It will always exist. And the question is, where do you want to go from here if it is always existing? Is this mundane existence your reality, or is there something better? And our leaders, our good lords have told us that something better exists in nirvana, in moksha, where you can get rid of all these infirmities and be a perfect soul and a perfect happiness, bliss, and everything. So the journey to get there will come automatically the moment you believe that you are a Jain, where you believe in the continuation of your soul. And that is all you have to do. My belief is once you believe in that soul, and when I do my Sunday morning classes at my temple to young kids, my entire goal is to just make sure that they start believing in the soul. Because if you believe in the soul, you will then start following all the Jain philosophies, what it asks you. You will start meditating, you will start fasting, you will ask for forgiveness, give forgiveness, seek penance. You will go to the temple, make donations as offerings, be compassionate towards other souls and other living beings. All that will come naturally. So following Jainism becomes easier once you believe that I, the soul, is in an imperfect stage right now, and I need to get to a perfect stage. And that's how you become a Jain.
Nitin, for all our viewers and listeners who would love to be able to learn more, how can someone get more information on the Jain tradition?
Honestly, Google.com is one of the best answers, but Google.com is also a place where it confuses the hell out of us, right? You type Jainism and you get million hits, right? So to really learn about Jainism, there are some very good websites. Jainworld.org is one of them. But in America, Jaina is a confederation of all temples of Jains in North America. They have a very good website, Jaina, right? They have very good references, links to other websites. I would encourage people to go to Jaina. It would be very strong, right information basis for them. And it is written by Jains who are in America. So we have understood the challenges of explaining Jainism. So we have corrected those things to make it easier for anybody to understand. So I would say that is a good one. But I would say I would encourage people to go to India. And I would encourage them to live with our gurus, our acharyas, be part of them for some days. We have those kind of sessions where we as Jains itself can go and live for 10 days with them. We listen to them. We follow their process. We see how they're living. You go and visit our temples. Doing that will bring you closer. And you will see that Jains talk about all this, but they're literally living an opposite life. So it will create some confusion. But in that confusion, you will see that relentless drive in every Jain to get to that perfect soul, right? Yes, there is a lot of hoopla about how we do our religious ceremonies. You will find Jains to be very affluent, right? Wearing the best of the best dress, having the best iPhones, the glasses. Like we spend, right? Let's say they are one of the affluent societies of the world, right? But there is something about their value system that every airline in the world offers Jain food. So there is something about us that resonates with everyone else, that allows people to say, we need to respect them. We need to help them. We need to give them the right food. And that is how you will see Jains in action back home. And you will see that there is the beauty of the soul in its gurus and acharyas, and also in its followers, that generates an energy that makes life a possibility, right? Because many times we are like lost in like, okay, if this is the way it is, then how do you get rid of this? How do you find answers to these infirmities that are going on? And Jainism helps you find those infirmities, answers to those infirmities, because if you can blame yourself, I think so you can start fixing things.
Absolutely.
Because now it's in your hand.
That's absolutely correct.
So,
Nitin, on behalf of Open Heart Conversations, and particularly the United Palace of Spiritual Arts community, thank you so very much. This has been such a rich, deep, and beautiful conversation. We so appreciate you coming and sharing your faith, your tradition, and your wisdom with us. Thank you.
it was a pleasure and an honor to be here. Thank you. Obviously, the last 2 hours have been very insightful to me myself, because, but thank you for this. I will meditate on this for months and years to come.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Like I said, this could go on for more hours. But
And Reverend Rob, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
yes, thank you. Thank you both.
Absolutely. And to all our viewers and all our listeners, thank you for joining us in Open Heart Conversations.